Hello, it's Yumina again, and today I'm doing a video about, I guess they're a compilation of story times about overhearing things said about me in other languages. So I thought I've seen something like this on YouTube that was like from, it was translated from an online forum and put onto YouTube and audio. So I was just like, oh, maybe I could do that. But it'll be me telling the stories. So I grew up in New York City around a lot of languages, and I've heard people speaking in African languages, in Chinese languages, in Swedish, and multiple other languages, and never once like thought someone was talking about me. So this is definitely not like me being paranoid. It's just stuff that I picked up on. Also, I am bilingual, speak Spanish and English, but prior to leaving New York City, I didn't actually speak Spanish, even though I was mistaken often for being Puerto Rican or Dominican. I didn't speak Spanish back then when I still lived back home with my relatives, and now I do. So I definitely know if someone's speaking about me if they're doing it in Spanish. Also, let me see, what else was I gonna say? Also, I know a little bit of American Sign Language, but I would not know if someone was speaking about me in the language because I am not fluent at all. I probably understand more of it than I can actually respond now. But yeah, I was learning American Sign Language back in 2014 to 2016, but I was probably the baby in the group of learning the language, so I'm not fluent on that. Let's see, what's the other thing I was going to say? So, just a quick, I'm going to do two quick stories related to languages and then get into the overheard stories. So, the first time I ever heard Portuguese where I live, there were Brazilian students who were coming to the one of the local colleges here, and I had forgotten about it, but I was on a bus one day a few years ago, and I overheard people speaking in the back of the bus, and I was just like, I started kind of eavesdropping, and I normally don't eavesdrop on conversations, but I was like trying to practice listening to Spanish, even though I wasn't supposed to be. But it turns out it wasn't Spanish because I could barely understand a single word that they were saying, and it sounded very musical. And I finally realized, oh, they're speaking Portuguese. This is not Spanish, so I wasn't getting any of the conversation. And then another story time, little side note, is I speak to everyone, especially back in the day before quarantining and all that stuff. I would speak to anyone who looked even remotely like me, so any kind of melanated skin, and I could tell that they were of African descent or Black American or Caribbean. Any person of color who looked like they were of African descent in some kind of way, I would always speak to them and say hi. And then also we get a lot of tourists where I live, so there are people from African countries that come here, predominantly Kenya. There are people who come here from Asian countries. There are people who come here from European countries. So I saw this man on the bus, and he was from Africa. I could tell he was from the continent, but I was like, let me speak to him and see where he's from. So I actually started speaking to him. His name was Edgar. Edgar, I think. Anyway, so his name was Edgar, and his name was Edgar or Eduardo. I forget which one. But anyway, he was from Equatorial Guinea, which is one of the few countries in Africa where they speak Spanish as their first language. And I got really excited, so I actually made sure he spoke Spanish, but I knew he did, and so I started speaking to him in Spanish, and that was a fun conversation. It was nice to actually do that because, yeah, I only know Spanish and English. I can watch movies in Hindi without subtitles and get the idea of what the story is about. And what's the other thing that I like to do? Yeah, and I'm trying to keep up with a little bit of American Sign Language, but I'm not doing too good on that. And I am interested in Italian. So I can't understand spoken Italian. I have to definitely use subtitles for that. For Hindi, I can understand certain words from the language from watching a lot of Bollywood movies, but I could use subtitles as well just as easily. So anyway, the overheard story times are ones that I usually didn't say anything back to the persons. So if I'm being like sexually harassed, I don't say anything to the person because I want to ignore them. And the one time that I felt to say something to someone about it was when it was construction workers where I was nearby where I was working. I actually complained to the business that was getting construction work done, told them what was going on, and I didn't appreciate it. Other times I usually ignore people if they're doing something like that towards me because I just don't want to deal with it. But there are times when I wish I would have said something because I don't appreciate that kind of attention, and I just want people to know that it's not cool. Um, and then when I definitely overhear things about me and they're usually in English and they're being racist, I definitely say something because I can't tolerate that. I'm one of the few people of color of African descent that lives out here, and I definitely don't let people get away with that, and it's so unnecessary. I'm just like, I don't understand people who are like that. So my overheard story times, most of them are not dealing with racism. They're just dealing with just random funny things or silly things that happened. But I'm going to look at my notes really quickly. Okay. Okay. So the first story would be that I have a family that used to live in my apartment complex. I haven't seen them in a while, but they were Ethiopian and Muslim, and I believe one of the times one of the mothers of the husband or wife came to visit, and I dress the way I dress. I wear head wraps, but I'm also a Christian, so I don't have to wear head coverings necessarily most of the time. Um, so I usually wear my hair out. I It just takes a lot of time to style my hair. So I'm wearing my hair however I'm wearing it that day. So I think I was wearing my hair out the particular day that I ended up bumping into the Ethiopian couple and the mother-in-law. And I said hi to them because I always say hi to this particular family. And I think the mom kind of waved as well, but as soon as I walked past, like she started saying something in her language, and I believe the official language of Ethiopia is Amharic. I believe that's the language. And so I'm assuming she was speaking that language, but just the way she said it and the timing of her speaking, I knew she was saying something about me, but I never understood what she said, and I thought that was pretty rude because most of the time, people, if they assume you speak their language, they're gonna whisper and not make it so noticeable that they're speaking about you. But other times, when people assume you don't speak their language and they are trying to speak about you, you can hear them across the room or across any distance, and it's interesting that they think it's cool to do that. So anyway, so that was one of the first stories I'll relate. So she said something about me. I had no idea if it was due to my appearance or to me speaking to them or what, but she said something and I was just like, okay. Another time I've overheard somebody, I'm thinking they were speaking Dutch. They could have been speaking French, but I usually recognize the French language when it's spoken, so I think they might have been speaking Dutch. Um, and it was on a bus, and I had pulled out my cell phone to like send someone a text because I do not. The only time I actually text people is when I'm at home, which I hate doing, or when I'm on a bus or walking somewhere. I'll text someone because I don't want to forget to text them, but I'm not going to like. I don't like to focus on it because I don't like texting. I'd rather have a conversation with someone over the phone. So I just text people when I was taking a bus for transportation, as that was something to do while I was on the bus. So it's not something that I do every time, and I'm not like texting a whole bunch of people all the time. Anyway, so I was on a bus, minding my business, texting someone, probably my mom, but I was texting someone, and these people sitting across from me said basically they said basically these Americans are always on their phone. And I was just like, I looked at them and I was just like, oh my goodness, people getting in people's business for no reason. So I just looked at them and then I went back to what I was doing. I was like, they literally don't know me. How many, anyway. So people having some generalizations to say about people just, I was gonna say it cracks me up, but it actually annoys me because I'm like, you don't know me from anybody else, so like, why do you have to say something about something that's none of your business? So anyway, that was the second story. So then another time I overheard. Okay, this one. Okay, so I was on a bus and I think I was like reading a book. This was a few years ago, and we have a lot of tourists from Spain that come here. And like I said, I speak Spanish, so I understand things. So I was reading a book, I was minding my business, absorbed in a book, and next thing I know, I hear like this ruckus in the back of the bus, and I was just like, what is that? So I looked at the back of the bus, and I see like four people looking back at me, and they looked very mean, and I was wearing sunglasses. But I wear sunglasses during the day here because it's very sunny. But anyway, I was wearing sunglasses and I looked at them and they looked very mean. And I was like, oh my goodness, they're being racist, because I did not hear the conversation. I just realized that they were being racist just by how they looked at me. And like they started talking again, but I wasn't paying attention. And they like got off the bus at like the next stop. So I was just like, don't come to a country of people of immigrants and then have that kind of behavior. Like, don't do that. So anyway, that incident happened. That was a racist incident. Because I wasn't paying attention and didn't catch on right away, I didn't say anything back to them, because I could have said something back to them in Spanish, but it would have been nice. I would have been like, God created all of us, so what's your problem? But anyway, I did not hear it enough to understand that that was going on until after the fact. So another story that happened, I was at a beauty supply store, and this was a few years ago. I haven't been to this beauty supply store in a few years because I've been buying like some of my stuff online and some of my stuff at Target, but mostly still online. So I had gone in there. I actually don't braid my hair a lot. Like, I don't put in a lot of braided extensions, but at that point I actually had braided in some extensions to my hair and I had my hair wrapped up, and I had gone into the store for some other products at this point, and I heard the women basically having a conversation about me throughout the store, and I was just like, people are so rude. Like, you can't just ask me that. Like, I know I don't really want people asking me all these questions. Oh, is that your real hair? Or is this, that, and this, that, and the other? But I'm in a beauty supply store. They just saw me. Basically, they were saying like they had seen me buy my hair recently. Oh, did she put braids in her hair? Like, that was what they were basically asking about, and they didn't know, and they didn't ask me when I went to the counter, and I didn't tell them I spoke Spanish. I was just like smiling at them and just thinking that they were so funny, because I'm like, they're having this big loud conversation in the store about me being mad rude because I don't talk about people. If I'm gonna talk, I don't talk about people. If I'm mad at someone or annoyed with someone, they're not gonna hear it because I don't do that in their vicinity, and I do sometimes need to vent, but I'm not gonna do that in their vicinity. If I think someone looks cute, I'll tell them that. If I think I like someone's dress, I like someone's hair, I'll tell them that. They don't have to guess that I'm having a conversation about them if they don't speak my language, or if they don't assume that we speak the same language. So yeah, I thought that was kind of rude and like really unnecessary to like speak about a customer because you think they don't understand your language. So I was just like, okay. So then the next story, I was in Sephora. This was like probably a few years ago, and it was kind of slow. So I was actually speaking to one of the employees there, having a conversation with her, and then she got busy, so she had to go take care of the front of the store. And I told her I'd walk around and keep her, she had some people waiting for makeup application, so I told her I would keep them occupied for her. So I started to approach them. No, I think, I think that story's a little messed up. I think I messed it up a little bit. Okay, forget that. So she got busy taking care of some customers at the cash register, and I told her I would linger and like be around the store when she was done. So I actually saw two women who were walking kind of towards me, and they were like looking at me and saying something. And I was just like, oh my goodness, they're talking about me. How rude. So basically, what I gathered what they were saying, because I wasn't actually like eavesdropping, but they were speaking Spanish. What I gathered what they were saying is that they were probably talking about my makeup, and they were probably saying my makeup looks shiny. Probably because that particular day I was wearing a mix of the Fenty Beauty Hydrating Foundation with the Urban Decay Stay Naked foundation, and it was new at the time. So I was wearing those blended together, and it was at the end of my workday. So I don't necessarily always like blot my face with sheets, but I could have, but I didn't care because I actually loved the way the foundation looked. And I looked in the mirror after I heard her talk about me. I was like, I'm fine. But so I actually spoke to them, and I didn't speak to them about what I had overheard. I was just like, oh, are you going to try out some makeup? I didn't even say it in Spanish. I just said it in English just to converse with them because I thought it was funny that they were talking about me. But I was just like asking them if they were going to try makeup and if they were waiting for the employee to come back and help them, and they were like, yeah, we are. So we had that conversation, and that was the end of that. And I was just like, people are too funny. But I believe those are the end of my stories. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so that's the end of my stories. So those are conversations I overheard that were in different languages, like I said, because I understand Spanish, but I do tend to not like eavesdrop on people's conversations because I think it's kind of rude. I usually don't notice until like well after the fact, and like I said, I don't confront people about stuff unless it's like blatantly racist and yeah, if it's racist, I'll definitely say something. But if they're just talking about me being kind of silly, kind of immature, I like don't have anything to say because I don't know what to say to that. I just think people, if they are willing to have a conversation about you, I think they should be willing to say it to you. But not everyone's the same way. And with me, if I want to say something to you, I'm going to say it. And if I don't, I don't. But I also don't say negative things to people I don't know. And if I have any venting to do about people I do know, I try to make it constructive. And I also try to do it to people that I trust who won't relay it back to them. Because sometimes you do need to vent about people. But yeah, so I think those are for sure all of my stories. I don't remember any other significant ones because in the past in New York City, I didn't have to worry about people speaking about me. If they spoke about me, they were whispering and I couldn't really tell. Yeah, so those are all the stories that I have today, and hopefully this was a little bit interesting. I know I talk a lot, but I get camera shy. I'm also a people person, but more the camera shyness makes me talk more. So that's it. Have a good day or a good night because it's actually after sundown. Have a good night and a good rest of your weekend. Talk to you later. Bye.